Welcome to the Content Podcast, conversations with Silicon Valley's creatives. I'm Daniel Garcia, your host and the cultivator of Content Magazine, published by SV Creates.
Hello, this is Sayre Batton. I go by Sayre, and I'm the Oshman Executive Director at San Jose Museum of Art.
Hey, Sarah, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. I appreciate your time.
My pleasure. Thank you for asking me.
Yeah, so we did have a little discussion about your name. You said earlier in the pre-interview discussion that in the Bay Area you go by Sayre, but your full name is Susan Sayre. So what was the difference or the decision to not use Susan sometimes, or what's kind of the history behind that?
It's not really a mystery or a history. It's just that I had worked in other cities, and people know me as Susan. But when I moved to the Bay Area, my director at the time was named Susan, and there were other folks on staff and in committees and boards named Susan. So it's just a super common name, and I made the expeditious decision to just go by my middle name, which is Sayre, and it's pretty unique. Other people don't have it, so it's my mother's family name, and I just I really like it.
Yeah, it is really unique, and I like it. I was always, though, kind of confused when I first met you because, wait a minute, did she say Sarah or did she
I
say
know.
but it's great. What's the nationality? Is it kind of Irish or something? It looks like a
English. It's an English family name, and yeah, it's just one syllable.
Oh, okay, Sarah.
Yep.
There you go. Good. Cool. Awesome. Oh, I thought there was going to be some more mysterious stuff around it, that in a previous city, you caused all kinds of damage or something.
It went away.
Yeah.
Well,
So
nothing
what can
so interesting.
Yeah, it's not that. Yeah. So when we interviewed you a couple years ago for the magazine, you talked about some early art experiences that you had at the Museum of Art with your sisters. Um, can you kind of tell us a little bit about, how you got involved in the arts, and then we'll talk to lead up to where you are today. But what was kind of those upbringings and your early childhood developments that kind of exposed you to the art scene?
Sure. It's a great and short story, which is just that I'm so lucky that my mother was very interested in the arts and was an amateur painter herself,
Mm-hmm.
and most importantly, felt that exposure to the arts were fundamental
Yeah.
for children in their developmental years. And I was super lucky because not only did she feel that way, but she took us to museums, she took us to galleries, she
Yeah.
introduced us to actual living artists who made a living as working artists, which is,
Yeah.
pretty cool when you're a kid. And one of the things that I cite that is so memorable is that she taught us a visual language. When she would take us to museums or to look at something, whether it was a sculpture or an exhibition or a project, she would bring us back home and put us in front of an easel or maybe just a pad of paper on a table, and we'd have
Oh,
some
wow.
paints or some colors or maybe just some, who knows, crayons at the first time,
Yeah.
and she would just say, I want you to show me what you saw today. And
Wow.
so kids,
Yeah.
it's really great because, kids are actually really great artists. And,
Right.
we would just make a drawing or use some color or whatever. And there was no wrong answer. And it was a way to communicate visually, which I think really kind of opens up, certainly both sides of your brain.
Yeah, that's really cool. Now, did you kind of go on and pursue painting or uh, art form yourself, or were you kind of more drawn to the administrative management side?
No, gosh, I don't think anybody would be drawn to the administrative side,
Well, yeah, there got to be at
but
least
it's
one person out there.
no, I actually I find working with organizations extremely creative, but I jest. But actually, I am trained as an artist, and went to did undergraduate training, a BFA degree in studio art, and went
Wow.
on to do postgraduate studies. But I also studied art history,
Yeah.
and, had a general liberal arts education as well.
Yeah. So then where was the transition from well, what did you then, like, out of college and out of, that did you were you pursuing to be, like, an artist, would you say, or were you kind of more
Well, I had a real, hybrid, professional path, and the short answer is that I was definitely working as an exhibiting artist,
Mhm.
for some time after graduate work. I stayed on, at the university where I was, and I taught for 5 years in the visual arts program with some pretty amazing artists who were involved with the program, so I was very lucky that way.
And where was that at? Where was
That
that?
was at Princeton.
I'm sorry, where I'm
That was at Princeton University.
Princeton, okay. Yeah.
And they actually, they don't have an art school per se. It's a very academic, institution, but their visual arts program, in my experience, especially as a postgraduate student and then staying on, was, very influential because, they had actual working artists who lived
Mm.
in New York City, were the faculty. So they weren't like full-time
Oh, yeah.
that stayed out on campus. They were really alive and in the world.
Yeah,
I got exposed to really wonderful people. Um,
yeah,
and I also had a day job working in the Princeton University Library, and so that was a wonderful early experience to have, as a student and just out of being a student. But
yeah.
in after doing that for a while, after 5 years, I actually moved to Los Angeles, and I got my first museum job at the Los Angeles County Museum of Art,
Oh, cool.
and
Yeah,
that was super exciting. I got a IMLS fellowship and,
yeah,
got to study, and work there, and I ended up having a long career in Los Angeles of 18 years,
yeah.
working at a variety of museums there, and, all which was interrupted one day when, this wonderful and brilliant, museum director at the Honolulu Academy of Arts, it's now called the Honolulu Museum of Art,
Mhm.
called and said, "Would you come and be my deputy director?"
Oh,
And
wow.
I hyperventilated into a bag and, ultimately said yes, and didn't know if I was ready for such a big step, but I said yes and, moved more into. I had always been a department head, and I had management training
Uh,
and that sort of things, but I moved more concretely at that time, into the high level, management of museums.
executive type
Yeah.
position, yeah. So then you were raised on the East Coast then?
I was raised in Connecticut and mostly in
Okay.
Ohio.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So then, going to California and then to Hawaii, I mean, those are some nice places to move to.
Yeah, it's good to just, I mean, as a young person, I decided where I wanted to live and just was able to find, professional opportunities that let me get to go there for sure.
Yeah, yeah. So, then how did you get to San Jose of all places from, you know
You're not gonna make me sing the song?
No, I'm not. I
Um,
like the song, it has very fond memories for me as a kid from being from San Jose, but, I'm kinda over it.
yeah, I do think we should embrace it more. But anyway, I didn't grow up, here in San Jose, but yeah, after, like I said, working in, Los Angeles, for a long time and then Honolulu, I actually moved back to the East Coast and had another stint in New York. And it was after doing amazing and great work there with Dia Art Foundation, which is a really inspirational arts organization that invests deeply in artists and their vision.
Mhm.
I knew I wanted to come back to California, and my partner was being recruited by, the tech world in Silicon Valley,
Yeah.
and so we talked about, coming back to California, but coming to Northern California rather than, going back to LA. And, we had kind of had that conversation. And then, the very next day, I got a call from a search firm based in New
Oh,
York,
wow.
who I knew very well from other projects, and they said, "I don't know if you would be interested in this, but the San Jose Museum of Art is
Wow.
looking for a deputy director for curatorial affairs, and would you consider moving to California and taking this other project?" And so I, to be honest, was not very familiar with
Yeah.
the museum, but I looked it up and said yes to the next meeting, and we started a series of meetings and conversations, and I learned more about the organization. And one of the things that I was really, really focused on when I was at DIA in New York, both in New York City and upstate in the Hudson Valley at Dia Beacon, where I was the managing director, was community engagement. How to
Mhm.
get museums and institutions more fully integrated into the communities that they
Yeah.
serve. And so that had really become my focus, and that, lo and behold, was and is a great focus of the San Jose Museum of Art.
Yeah.
So we got into conversations and they offered me the job, and I came.
Yeah, that's cool. So and you've been for how long now? Is it 3
About
years?
5 years.
It's 5 years already.
Yeah, I started
Wow.
in September 2015.
Man, time flies. Um, but so you literally you and your partner were having a conversation and the next day the phone call came? I mean, it was
Yeah,
that
because we had kinda already decided to, to come, but, it was really, I mean, I don't wanna get into this too much, but over the years, we had sometimes, not lived in the same city because our
Yeah,
careers took us in different directions, and we had already
sure.
decided that was no good. We're not gonna do that again.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
But my partner is a pioneer in digital publishing,
Oh, cool.
and before that, in audiobooks. In fact, she won 5 Grammy Awards for Best
Wow.
Spoken Word Album, and so, yeah, the tech universe was knocking on her door, and, um, San Jose is the capital of Silicon Valley, so
Yeah, yeah.
it seemed like a good next step for sure.
Yeah, that's great. That really worked out well. That's exciting. Yeah. Cool. Well, so now you mentioned even in the article that we did before with you, the interview, as seeing, the museums as being kind of like the next kind of gathering place for the community.
Right.
What explain that a little bit more, and then I do want to, yeah, explain that a little bit more. What your perspective is of that.
Okay. Actually, there's a great line I can quote. Lonnie Bunch III, who is the secretary of the Smithsonian Museums in Washington, has this great line, which is to say that museums are not community centers, per se,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but they can become centers of community.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's kind of what we talked about last time we chatted, was that I think for some people in every city, it's nothing to do with San Jose, they have a kind of outdated idea of what museums are, or maybe they
Yeah.
think of them as kind of stuffy and a place where they might not be welcome, and they're not sure what programs they have that would be, relevant to their experience.
Yeah.
And that is something that is part of our communication every day as we expand our community partnership, as we open our doors, increasingly reducing barriers to
Yeah.
accessibility. And there's this thing in museums nationally that they call threshold fear.
Yeah. Sure.
Right? Like
Yeah.
like, you don't come across the threshold. Like, once we get people in, we know what kind of experience they tell us they have,
Yeah.
but, if someone doesn't think a museum is for them, it's a really changing and dynamic definition of what kinds of programs are offered, and also the way in which we can leverage our strengths with other community partners and
Yeah.
frequent things like our Third Thursdays, where we
Yeah.
offer other community organizations, a stage, a platform to do their thing, whether it's performing arts or, new ballet, Mosaic
Yeah.
Silicon Valley, all the partners that we work with really on a regular basis.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, what do you think then are I mean, I love that idea. I mean, when I think in terms of, uh what I would like to see museums being. Yeah, not community centers, but definitely that place where you can go. I mean, even in our culture, it's kind of sad because people, when they don't know what to do, they'll go to the mall, right? And they'll just walk around in
Oh,
circles
isn't
in
that
the mall.
sad?
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, wouldn't it be great if the perspective was like, "Oh, I don't know what to do. Let's go to a museum and just kinda hang out and have coffee or a drink," and, but that
Exactly.
would be awesome. But what do you think, what's some of the barriers? But I think of there's definitely some perspectives, but then what are maybe some other more tangible barriers to that happening?
Well, one of them that I'm working very hard to remove is it costs money to go in the
Yeah,
door.
yeah,
So we've actually, I think when you and I spoke before, I talked about a real vision and goal to make the museum free.
yeah,
And we are halfway there. we,
yeah,
we actually got generous funding from a very private foundation with origins in the tech world.
Great.
To make all admission free for youth, students with ID, and their teachers. So
Wow, yeah,
right away, that helped us a lot. And we had an amazing 25% increase just in college students alone coming to
incredible, yeah.
the museum because, it was only $5 for a student, but $5 might be $100 to many students,
Yeah, yeah,
and we're in conversations now with other possible support to become truly free. The thing about it is you need to have it underwritten, right? Because that is
yeah,
a source of revenue, and in a city that just cut arts funding 75% last year, all of us
yeah,
received very deep cuts. We
yeah,
do have to be realistic, and we do have to have revenue other than just asking people for donations.
yeah,
So stay tuned. We're in some interesting conversations right now, but that's an absolute goal, and it is a barrier for some. And we
yeah,
have a goal to be very accessible, right, to the diverse communities that we serve. And if we can just reduce that one barrier, it would be really helpful. I also think that not just us, but many arts and culture organizations, we have to look at our hours and
yeah,
be open at night. And
yeah,
again, find a way for this to be either budget neutral or have it be underwritten so that when people actually aren't at school or work,
yeah,
there's this place to come. And the other thing, we've done little baby step things. We've brought in comfortable furniture in the lobby. This is all
yeah,
pre-COVID, of course,
right,
but so there's a nice place to hang out. And we had the most exciting thing that we haven't even marketed in a big way just because of COVID, which is that our cafe is now managed by Mezcal Restaurant.
oh, cool.
And so we started a partnership with them officially in January, and it's called El Cafecito.
Oh, okay,
And, when we are allowed to reopen again, it'll be a very welcoming place indoors, but we have permission from the city to expand our footprint outdoors on the Circle of Palms.
oh,
So
awesome,
that could be a place where
yeah,
not only do you just come have lunch in our beautiful weather, right, and sit outside,
yeah,
and Adolfo Gomez, who I'm sure you know,
yeah,
already invested in beautiful furniture and tile top tables. But
great,
5 o'clock every day, that's the go-to spot where we come and have a
yeah,
burrito.
yeah, yeah,
So
that sounds great.
these are baby steps in really again becoming a center of community.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, even, the building is so beautiful, right? And even with the cafe and the room with the round room with all the windows, it's a great place just to kind of hang out and, being in that kind of atmosphere kind of, I think, inspires and even produces more creativity. So that's awesome that you guys are doing these kind of things. Um, yeah,
I
that's
mean,
great.
we need to reopen. We were so
Yeah.
excited. We got to reopen on October 30th. Our crew had been on site since June installing the new shows. We also
Yeah.
commissioned a major new work for our lobby during a pandemic.
Yeah.
So we were so excited. We staffed back up again and reopened. And over that, we switched to only 3 days a week, just figuring in a COVID year, that's probably going to be as much as we can do. So
Yeah.
Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, those are days when people, are free to go out and about.
Yeah.
And we're so happy that we welcomed over 750 people to the museum in just that, 3-week period.
Yeah.
Sadly, right before Thanksgiving, we had to close back down again.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I do want to ask you about, the transitions and pivoting and stuff with COVID. But before we get there, um, I just want to ask you, like, for like when you guys have done the when you do the Thursday night program, and
Yeah,
even the first
it's Friday.
Friday program, what making those kind of programmatic admission changes? What do you see uh, in like? Do you see a major increase in attendance um, to the
Yeah,
museum? Like,
massive. It's
yeah,
so great. The first Friday program, which is with Facebook, who
mhm,
came on as a major partner over a year ago, almost a year and a half ago, um, was a game changer for us. We were open Friday nights.
yeah,
People just were walk-ins. Like even,
yeah,
we did extensive marketing, but a lot of people just saw the lights on, and we had
yeah,
like groovy lights and a DJ,
yeah,
and the galleries were open, and a cash bar.
yeah,
It was just relatively simple from an operational point of view. And the first night we had 900 people.
yeah, yeah.
And
That's
it was
great.
just like you and I know, San Jose is this is again all pre-COVID.
Yeah,
San
yeah,
Jose is a night town. There's nobody there in the day,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Well,
yeah,
it's really people leave and go to their jobs,
yeah,
and sometimes we have some visitation from the convention center, but, if you're here for a convention, you're pretty much in meetings all day.
yeah,
And, and so Friday night's big. People, if you or I walk around at 7 o'clock on a pre-COVID Friday night, we're going to see a whole bunch of young people out walking around, having a drink or going to a restaurant or something.
yeah,
And so, yeah, so that has been great. And we have fantastic statistics on, observations of who came. We ran,
sure.
we ran surveys, but we found, generally speaking, that the crowd was much younger than the
Yeah,
average demographic and much more diverse. And that's exactly what we want to do. We want to open our doors and be
yeah,
welcome. And Third
yeah,
Thursday as well. That program has a longer history, and it is often an opportunity where we can give that center lobby stage to
yeah,
performing arts organizations.
yeah,
Uh, and sometimes we use it as a night to open exhibitions. But the main thing that we switched to pre COVID was having all of our openings on Facebook First Friday, meaning that you didn't have to give us money to come to our special parties,
yeah, yeah.
you it was
That's
open
great.
to the public.
Yeah,
And again, it's all about reducing barriers, right?
yeah, yeah. That's awesome. And it's great. I mean, I love it. Well, I mean, I love museums and galleries anyway. So it's kind of, I mean, I even love going into the ones where there's nobody there and it's quiet and you walk around and, but when you go there and there's a DJ or a band and dancing and, you know what I mean? And it just adds another dimension, that's just so fun. So, of course, for the arts, COVID is, and like many industries, COVID has hit us all pretty hard. What is some of the ways, though, that you've been transitioning during this time?
So many ways. We closed on March 13th ahead of the county order to help flatten the curve, hoping that, the pandemic wouldn't be wouldn't
Right.
last too long.
Yeah.
And it was a part of a national movement that arts and cultural organizations were leaders in preemptive
Yeah.
closure. And it was super complicated. I mean, it was like a free fall. I think, you can probably relate. It
Yeah.
just, nobody knew what was going to happen. And
Yeah.
financially, the financial impact was huge. We were looking at facing a major deficit in that fiscal year, which closed June 30th.
Yeah.
We had no idea how to plan for the following fiscal year that that we're in now that started July 1st.
Yeah.
Um, Everything was a question. Every member of the staff was coming to me every day. Well, when is it going to be over?
Yeah.
we I think they probably got sick of me saying I don't have a crystal ball. Um, yeah, it was devastating, especially because we were really in a super positive momentum.
Yeah.
We had been building the budget, we had been building sponsorships, we had more attendance. We had the year before was a really ambitious year for us, where we had several major exhibitions, one of which toured nationally. These are big moments for art museums.
Yeah.
But that said, we I just can't praise our staff enough for being so super proactive and creative right away, and
Yeah.
figuring out, okay, how are we going to keep these programs going? How are we going to keep in touch with our members? How are we
Mhm.
going to keep the good word going out? We
Yeah.
have, we have a mission and purpose, and we have to keep serving. And I really also need to mention the incredible support that we received immediately from our board of trustees and our long-term donors and supporters, who realized, wow, this is a crisis and we don't know how long this is going to last, and
Yeah.
we're going to double down and make sure that you have the financial footing to keep going. And we
That's
made a
awesome.
very, very big decision that we would drastically cut programs so that we didn't have to cut staff.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was a beautiful coming together in a crisis of a
Yeah.
lot of different people, and really does take a village to
Yeah.
to make it happen. But so what we did is we had announced a strategic plan in the fall of 2018 about wanting to become a borderless museum, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
I've talked to you about it before, and
Yeah.
really being essential to creative life and reaching out to our diverse communities locally. And so after we got through the shock of, oh wow, we closed, what are we going to do? We had to start preparing a bunch of financial models, and really get to hard work.
Yeah.
We were like, wow, borderless. We were prophetic.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's do this, kids. Let's put on a show. And we found this amazing group of talented people that worked in all different departments. Like, it turns out the assistant facilities manager was a professional photographer and video editor, you
Oh,
know?
cool.
And so
Yeah.
we got to deploy people in and learn their talents and skill sets that
Yeah.
we hadn't fully employed before. So
Yeah.
a lot of things happened, and people started really working cross departmentally, led by the marketing team and by other teams, to get the message out, like, daily on social media, like, hey, we're here. Here's our program coming up on third Thursday.
Yeah.
Here's our next lunchtime lecture. And all of those early virtual programs, everything that pivoted to virtual,
Mhm.
were oversubscribed. Like, we had to learn, like I'm sure you did in the beginning. Oh, you gotta increase your Zoom membership to get over 100 people. Like, we never
Yeah.
had 100 people before.
Yeah. Yeah.
So a lunchtime lecture, which is a great and wonderful series, it's been going on for many years. You know, I don't know the average attendance, but all of a sudden, the 100th person was, emailing us going, I can't get in.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that happened. The development team, looking at fundraising, got really creative also, and started realizing we can have the same programs that we offer for our donors. And we have some really special programs for our high level donors,
Yeah.
but we can make them even more special. Like, if we're going to take a group to an artist studio visit, hey, we took them to Berlin, to
Yeah.
Nina
Yeah.
Kachadorian's studio in Berlin, and got to meet an artist in Germany, which never would have happened, right? If it was an in-person event.
Right.
So a lot of things we focused every week in our senior staff meetings and our planning meetings, while we were surviving this very difficult transition, to always open every meeting with, what's a silver lining, you know?
Yeah.
It,
Awesome.
share what happened to you this last week that has been a silver lining. And I think that the fact
Yeah.
that our programs now can be national and even global, and for free,
Yeah.
we don't, we don't have to spend money on travel, and we don't. I mean, if we invite an artist, we still pay them, of course,
Sure.
but you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that led up to our first virtual gala in September,
Yeah.
and it was super scary. Like, we really didn't know what was going to happen, and I tip my hat to the fantastic development team and the board and committees that supported that really brilliant event. And we decided to make it into, my colleague Kristen Bertrand ran point on that brilliantly and decided to make it like a television production.
Yeah.
And we hired Create TV to do it, and it was really successful. People were so generous,
Yeah.
and we had, we got it once again. We got an opportunity to invite New Ballet and Mosaic Silicon Valley, and
Yeah.
all Opera San Jose, all of these San Jose Jazz,
Yeah.
6 or 7 partners to help perform, and then it was followed by an after party where you got like a little instruction in different types of world dance, and then it was just like an open air, airwaves dance party.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I could go on, and I won't,
Yeah.
but
That's cool.
it's
Yeah.
been it's been really difficult, and it's been
Yeah.
really exciting. And I think our current challenge is how to continually upgrade our
Yeah.
production value, capacity.
Yeah.
And so we're working hard behind the scenes on doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. What would you say, because, this hasn't this is unique. This hasn't happened in 100 years, this type of thing. Um, for you as a leader, as the director, what have you personally kind of learned through this time?
I think it's that hidden talent that I mentioned,
Hmm.
that everyone is not in their little place, in their little department, in their little job, in their little,
Yeah.
that we have to wear many different hats in life.
Hmm.
And the more that we can recognize, the beautiful range of
Yeah.
everyone's skill sets and interests, the more we can leverage all of our shared strengths,
Yeah.
and and do better things together, and honor each other. It's not just about work. We can honor each other. We've all gotten to know each other. We've seen each other's homes now every day on our Zoom
Yeah.
calls. We've met their cats and dogs. So I really especially tip my hat to my staff who have young children at home. I mean,
Yeah.
think how hard that is,
Yeah.
to be, no longer having daycare, and/or, you know, keeping your child in online learning at home while you're doing a full-time job.
Yeah.
It's just a particular new level of empathy and appreciation, I think, for all of us.
Yeah. That's cool. Do you have kind of like a your own kind of like guiding philosophy that you live life by, or that something that your North Star, something that you come back to remind yourself and keep you focused?
It's funny because whenever anyone asks me my motto, like outside of a work situation,
Hmm.
I say that it's hell yes.
Awesome.
So I would say, optimism, positivity, and finding those silver linings for sure. I'm very inspired by a lot of our fellow arts and culture leaders in San Jose and Silicon Valley, um, who are, in my opinion, like could be full on stand up comedians, like
Yeah.
Usha Srinivasan.
Yeah.
She could definitely have like an HBO one woman show uh, on the Comedy Hour,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I don't know if you follow her social media, but it's so funny. It's like standalone uh, stand up comedy, and so many other people, and people that are that funny. also reveal that they're that smart. You know,
Yeah, that's
like
yeah, yeah,
she's one of the inspirational people that I feel so honored to be able to work with.
yeah, yeah, that's cool. So, what do you see coming up? So, I'm kind of very curious too because these lessons that we've all learned or been going through and pivoting and doing in some ways out of necessity, right? The mother of invention for our organizations. How much of those will continue? Let's say, the doors open up, vaccine works, cure is found, doors, and we go back to opening the doors. What do you see? Like, what are you going to do for the balance of that? What do you see as kind of like the future with these things that you've
Well,
kind of
that's
begun?
funny that you asked because we had a pre-meeting about it today to set a meeting at the top of the new year in January with staff, with key staff, to kind of future cast a little bit,
Yeah,
because we don't know what the timing will be. But we do have to do things like set budgets and
yeah,
make projections. But one thing we have committed to doing internally, and also very much with the support of our super supportive board of trustees, is to continue to be a hybrid institution so that
yeah,
the physical experience will always have the augmentation of a virtual. So when we
hmm,
get back to having performances in the Wendell Center, for example, talks with artists or writer series or other things, that they will also be broadcast
yeah,
because we don't want to lose this wonderful wider audience that we have established during this time.
yeah,
And a lot of people that we were always trying to get down to our projects, like even just people from the art world in San Francisco, just to name one group.
yeah, yeah.
um, you know try fighting that traffic. It's just
Right.
hard, and if they can dial in from the comfort of their own home,
Yeah,
uh, it'll just help us continue to build audience. And all of that, of course, is going to take new investment in certain things, and
yeah.
investigating all of that right now. We're using the time we have right now. Most of my staff, like myself, have never been so busy since we closed.
Right. Yeah,
So there might be a perception to some like, oh, they're closed. They must have
yeah,
half days off. It's more like, my 8-hour day went to 12 or something. So,
yeah.
because we're having to figure out the present and
Hmm.
the future, and the stress and additional focus on fundraising particularly
Yeah,
is ongoing, especially when the city of San Jose, who's been such a wonderful and visionary major funder, really
yeah,
cut funding last year, and we just don't imagine that's going to bounce back anytime
yeah,
soon. So we have to make other plans.
yeah,
And yeah, so
yeah.
we're hoping to be a hybrid institution. We've also just received new funding from the Knight Foundation
Hmm.
for digital projects in the curatorial space.
Oh,
So
that's
we'll
awesome.
be investigating that in a deeper way. Those are things that could live on the web or in the net space, or they could be projections onto the building, or you know AR pieces,
Yeah,
or VR, or things that we have yet to explore.
yeah,
So we see this as an opportunity, even though it's all very challenging, and it's all a bunch of skill sets that for some of us might I'll just talk about myself. It's a steep learning curve, and we're
yeah,
getting there as fast as we can, but we also have these great partners here in Silicon Valley. Adobe, for example, just finished an amazing project with our education team on how to keep the excellence of our delivery to Title I students, uh,
yeah,
our education programs in a virtual world. So we have partners that have the skills that we need. We just did a behind the scenes workshop with McKinsey to help us sharpen our tool sets in the digital area, and we're working with a number of other companies, and it's making a big difference.
yeah. That's awesome. So, if you were to say, look, and I know you told your staff you don't have a crystal ball, but as you look into 2021, if you had to kind of think of uh, a word or a phrase that either you want to project into 2021 or that you kind of feel will be, or intuition kind of what 2021 will be for you as well as the museum, what would that be?
Hmm. Well, I mean, my first impulse is to say, let's breathe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
take a deep breath. Let's just
Yeah.
keep breathing because we have no idea how
Yeah.
long it's going to last and if it's going to get worse
Right.
or before it gets better. Our hearts go out to all of the people that are unemployed.
Yeah.
Um, we know that, the stock market and various markers like that have been strong, but we are, really so focused on wishing everyone health and safety during
Yeah.
this time because this thing has gotten real.
Yeah.
I'm not sure everyone took it as seriously as it needed to be taken
Right.
in the beginning.
Yeah.
So I think we need to breathe and we need to, help our fellow neighbor because it's just a time where working together and helping each other is the best, is the only way to succeed and survive. Um, that's just what comes to mind. It's just a time where we have to take care of ourselves, our families, and take this worldwide situation very, very seriously. We feel that we are offering a very robust series of programs, and we
Hmm.
hope that people dial in.
Yeah.
It's very easy going on sjmusart.org/calendar just to see what's coming up.
Yeah.
Um, and we try to have a variety of programs for people with all kinds of different interests. So you don't have to be an art expert to
Yeah.
dial into our programs. And a great example is next Thursday, on our third Thursday, it's a global dance party led
Yeah.
by Mosaic Silicon Valley. So it's just a totally fun holiday party, and
Yeah.
anyone can dial in. But we also have several exhibitions on view, and even though you can't come in the building right now,
Yeah.
um, one of them is a partnership with UC Santa Cruz and their Arts Institute of Arts and Sciences, called Barring Freedom, about prisons and justice. And
Yeah.
for people that saw the exhibition, it's extremely powerful. But the robust public programs starting again. We had them this fall. The opening keynote was with Angela Davis and
Yeah.
Gina Dent talking about visualizing abolition.
Yeah. Awesome.
So those are things that people can tune into to
Hmm.
look at these very serious matters, and that we are, really devoted as an institution to. But we also have
Yeah.
another exhibition on view from our permanent collection called Southeast Northwest, and there's a curator's online walkthrough. So, for example, you can't come to the building, but you
Yeah.
can tune in for free at the end of January to see that. And we have
Yeah.
things with poets, and I know you've been to some of our programs.
Yeah. Well, so then, yeah, what happens to the exhibitions that you had scheduled for like 2021? I mean, your calendar, are you still going to go on with those just kind of in a virtual way, or do they get pushed out? How are you going to?
We've made a lot of changes, including last summer we had to just cancel an exhibition that was scheduled to travel into town. So there's things as
Yeah.
dire cancellations of major projects. Um,
Yeah.
and some projects we have the luxury of being able to extend them. So, for
Yeah.
example, the exhibition I just mentioned from our permanent collection, we
Hmm.
we can run it a little bit longer because it's works of art that belong to us.
Yeah.
But we do
Yeah.
have some pretty exciting things on the schedule for next year, and we're moving forward. We will be installing and opening those shows. And again, we will find virtual ways for people to see and experience this work and meet those artists
Yeah.
um, if worst case scenario, our open hours are very limited.
Yeah. Well, cool. I mean, thank you. I feel like since you came to town, I feel like the museum, and I'm not sure if there was already things in motion, but it has been 5 years that I've seen a transition in the exhibitions, and I feel like there's more of a social community consciousness to the museum. Do you think is that something that you really have brought and pushed for? Um,
Well, thank you for saying that. And we have an incredible curatorial team.
yeah.
Two of the members are new to the museum since who I hired, and we have an incredible education team um,
Hmm.
and group of people who partner, including the really talented marketing folks on public programs. So it
Yeah.
really does take a village.
Yeah.
The strategic planning process in 2016 that led to the plan being announced publicly later
Hmm.
really does identify the investigation of social justice as one of its priorities.
Yeah.
It and it identifies, continuing to explore um, works of art and ideas at the intersection of art and technology. So
Hmm.
we're doing more with new media, and I just mentioned, some digital projects in the curatorial space. So yeah, it's an incredible team effort, and definitely
Yeah.
in fulfillment of our strategic directions.
Yeah. It seems like there's been a transition, definitely since you have arrived. So thank you for that. It's exciting.
Takes a big team.
Um, yeah. So last thing, uh, holiday break is coming up, so I'm sure you get a little bit of time to somewhat not work as much. What do you do to restore yourself, keep yourself sane?
Get outdoors as
Yeah.
much as possible.
Are you a hiker, or you do
Oh
go
yeah,
fly fishing?
I live next to Alum Rock Park,
Yeah.
and so that is a daily activity, and take short car rides around the region for other great hikes, and get to the ocean as much as possible.
Yeah.
Just get outdoors, and I love and appreciate the incredible parks and beaches that we have really within a stone's throw of downtown San Jose.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a perfect nature culture combo that makes me tick,
Yeah.
um, and is really restorative. Two different kinds of church.
Yeah, right, yeah. Are you, uh are you more of a mountain, or a mountain, desert, or beach, or what's your kind of which outdoors do you prefer most?
Oh, I really love mountains and forests, but I love the beach as well. And thank goodness we have
Yeah,
all those.
both.
Yeah,
Yeah. They're actually almost butt right against each other out here, right? You could be in the forest and then end up on the beach.
yeah.
Well, cool. Well, thank you, Sarah. I really appreciate what you've brought to our city with your leadership and your team, and congratulations on all the pivoting that you're doing. And I hope that you do get some time to go outside and breathe, as you were kind of telling us. And I'm looking forward to more stuff in 2021.
Well, thank you. You've been very kind,
Yeah.
and I'm very proud of our extremely talented team. So thank you.
Yeah. All right. Well, hopefully I'll see you in the real world soon.
I look forward to that. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you. To find out more about the San Jose Museum of Art, go to their website, sjmusart.org. Thank you for listening to the Content Magazine podcast. Follow us on social media at Content Mag. Visit our website to become a member and help us to continue to tell the stories of the local creatives. This episode's music is Time Alone by Mild Monk. Follow him on Spotify and also on his Instagram at Mild Monk Music.